And hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Guys Talking Sports. I'm Pat McDonald with Radigan Media. He's Tim Burney with the Sports Reports. We're here for episode 21. Coming up a little bit later, we'll have Owego Free Academy's senior running back, Joseph Palladino. Had a great conversation with him, so we'll have that in just a little bit. Tim, let's start with New York football. We'll go over last week first as they're winding down the regular season in New York State. Owego, we'll start with them. They get a 2-0 win, a forfeit over Johnson City, who lost too many kids, I guess. And
apparently they all quit.
Yeah,
a couple days before the game. So
Owego gets the forfeit win, and they get to rest up and play Maine Endwell this week with the big game. Obviously, it's a big game, but it's not a big game because it's doesn't really mean much. There's no home field advantage.
I think it means more to Owego than it does to Maine Endwell.
Just to show they can beat them.
Exactly. At least they show they can play with them. And, there's no reason to think they can't either. They've played really well this year. They've beaten some good teams. They beat some good teams convincingly. So we'll see.
Tioga bounces back, a 56-28 win over Deposit Hancock, right? And you were over there.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about Jake
undefeated and ranked 5th in the state.
That's right. And Tioga's now jumped back up in the rankings, right?
The rankings come out tomorrow,
okay.
As far as I know. But I'm sure they will after that performance.
Talk about Jake Brown.
It was just old-fashioned. Jim Haggerty would be proud of Tioga football. They lined it up and ran it right down Deposit's throat. And second play of the game, they ran just a simple off-tackle play, and Brown broke it 56 yards to the 2-yard line. Then he punched it in on the third play. And, it was 14-14 because Deposit's offense came in scoring 50 points a game. So I thought if Tioga won, it was going to be a shootout. And honestly, Tioga was so banged up, I didn't think they could win this game. But Tioga scored every time they had the football until they took a knee with 2 minutes left in the game at the Deposit 20. And they made enough plays defensively that ended up blowing the game out. But Brown ended up with not only a school record, 421 yards on 32 carries, but that's a Section 4 record. He also broke the school record with 8 touchdowns and tied a Section 4 record with those 8 touchdowns.
I'm reading your story here. Ran for 271 and 5 touchdowns in the first half.
In the first half alone.
That's a career game for most people there.
Yes. So, the thing is, like I said, we've talked about him in the past. He's 225, 230 pounds. He runs like a 4.55 40, and he's starting to learn. He hasn't played since he was a freshman, so he's starting to get patient and learn to pick up blocks and stuff. And
similar to our guest we have coming up, Joseph Palladino, who went from soccer to football. So did Jake Brown.
Yeah, he was a goal after he broke his collarbone his freshman year of wrestling, and I tell the story that he broke the collarbone in the middle of a match, finished the match, got the win. And that was the end of his he hasn't wrestled since then. He played soccer for 2 years and decided to come back out for football, and it turns out it's a pretty good decision.
I mean, Tioga's really beat up, so that's a great game for him to have because, when you can lean on the one guy that's healthy, it's pretty good, and you can allow everybody else to try to get healthy.
Well, that's the thing. They went in there without 3 starting, or they had a 5-man rotation basically in running backs. 3 of those guys were hurt. Logan Bellis hadn't played since week 1, came back and had, I think, 8 or 10 carries, 50 yards. But they were playing with their third-string quarterback because their second-string quarterback, who was one of those running backs, is out for the year. And
that's Shea Bailey, right?
Shea Bailey, yep. And Jaden Duncanson had eye ankle sprain.
Against Waverly, right?
Against Waverly. So he sat this week or last week. And
so that's a huge win then without those guys. And
but they're healthy up front, and that line is pretty good, and it's the best they've played all year. That line was the best game they've played all year, and so now they go to Bainbridge Guilford this Friday, and Bainbridge Guilford's ranked in the state too, but Deposit had just beaten them 49-14. So if everything goes according to Hoyle, as they say, this could be another big win for Tioga, and they'll go in as the number 1 seed.
And Tioga over the years has kind of evolved offensively into a passing, kind of a mixed team.
Yeah,
so
very diverse.
But now they maybe they're going to find out. Maybe we go old school here over this year, because that's what our strength is.
Yeah, and I think they'll line up well against Bainbridge Guilford, and then I think they'll have Spec. Spec beat Walton last week, so they clinched a playoff spot. So that's of course, they get Tioga now in the semifinals, and then if Tioga beats Spec again, they will probably end up with Delhi. Of course, Deposit Hancock Delhi is a different matchup because Delhi's not as physical as Tioga. I think they'll beat Deposit Hancock, but Deposit Hancock had a big running back and some they could throw the football. Quarterback was very good, but they got behind and Tioga knew they were going to throw, so they were able to come after the quarterback and they were physical. They kind of beat up Deposit a little bit, and you could see the effects as the game went on.
I think people are thinking maybe Tioga not going to have a chance to make a run this year in the playoffs, but they get healthy. They had a tough schedule this year, so you're playing a Waverly team that's
you played
big favorite, Shenango Forks. So I think if they get healthy, they could still make a run and surprise some people down the road. And
well, the funny thing about it is that this year happens to be the year that Section 4 gets the wild card in Class D. So even if they go into that and they're still banged up, they go into that section final game against Delhi and lose, they just go to the East and play those schools, from the East.
Which is usually historically a little weaker than the West, right?
So they could actually play their way through the East back to the Carrier Dome and end up playing Delhi or Clymer Sherman Panama in the state finals.
That would be
interesting note too. Is that two of Tioga losses are to Waverly, ranked number 1 in the state in Class C, and Shenango Forks ranked 3. Clymer Sherman Panama has 2 losses, one to Waverly in the opener, and they lost their other losses to the number 2 team that's in between Waverly and
in Class C.
They lost to Salamanca.
Oh, okay.
So both those Class D schools, if they end up playing again, are going to be pretty battle tested.
Absolutely, should be fun to watch. Talk about Waverly, another laugher for the Wolverines, 48-0 over Lansing.
Yeah, I think Lansing's going to end up in the other team, so they'll probably play Forks in the in the Class C.
And Waverly's already set their semifinals of Windsor.
Windsor's got to beat Susquehanna Valley Saturday.
Okay, Max Preps I think already has it set.
Yeah, they should beat them on Saturday, but I believe they still have to beat. Susquehanna.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have the tiebreaker maybe because I saw on Max Preps it's already set for next week. Waverly Windsor in that semi game.
It most likely will be.
And so, but that's just like we talked last episode with Chris Manning. All eyes are on the semi with Troy and Southern Columbia and District 4 AA. All eyes are on the final in the Section 4 Class C with Waverly and Shenango Forks. That should be a good one.
Yes.
Although you can't really match up. Well, Waverly played ME this way and Shenango Forks played ME this way, but Waverly was obviously it was a close game, Shenango Forks and ME, but not until the end.
And like I said, we talked about this before. Waverly put 40 points on the board against Maine Endwell, who is probably the most athletic team you'll see.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Shenango Forks very good, very well coached, just like Maine Endwell. I don't think it's going to be a laugher by any means, but I just don't see them. I think they're going to have to outscore Waverly.
Yeah.
I don't think Waverly's going to score 50 on them or 40 on them, but I think they're going to have to outscore them. But they've got 4 good running backs, 4 kids that are capable of running the football. So Waverly's going to have to play well to beat them.
And as Coach Miller, I think, has said twice now on his 2 appearances on Two Guys Talking Sports, it's all roads lead through Shenango Forks until they don't, right? So I think he's not.
In the last couple of years, Waverly's looking to. I think the only other team that has beaten Shenango Forks, at least in the last 30 years, has beaten Shenango Forks more than twice in a row is Maine Endwell. And Waverly's beaten them 3 times in a row now, looking for number 4 if they get them in the section finals.
Let's look at some other games from last week. Horseheads continues to roll 49-14 over Binghamton. Corning a 49-6 win over Ithaca. Elmira a 40-0 loss to CBA. So
actually, it was a little closer than I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know if they called the dogs off or what, but CBA's widely considered number 1 in the state in AA.
Vestal 14-7 over UE. So that's I think down the road it's going to be Horseheads Vestal for that
Yeah, and,
Class A title in Section 4.
Horseheads beat them pretty good 2 weeks ago. So, I think we're looking at Horseheads winning the section. I think Corning probably wins the section.
Well, they got to play Elmira, right?
Yeah, but they beat them the first time around.
And that's the same thing, the wild card in both those classes too, correct? A
I believe so, yeah.
Double A. So whoever makes the finals gets the states. This week, Horseheads host UE. Should be a Horseheads win there, you would think. Corning hosting Vestal. Could be could be, you never know.
Right. I think Corning,
Corning should win that game,
yes.
I would think, but we'll see if everybody's healthy. Elmira at Binghamton, so two teams kind of struggling to find their footing there a little bit.
I think Elmira's got the advantage in that one.
You would think.
I've seen.
And then Edison and 8-man is at Allegheny Limestone, wherever that is. So
that is St. Bonaventure. That's Nick Aiello and Adam McCauley's alma mater.
Oh, okay, nice.
Right up on the other side of St. Bonaventure.
So that's the schedule coming up here. Who's Spencer Burnett and Cantor have this week?
Schuyler.
They beat Walton last week, 18-6.
Yep, they have Schuyler Friday night. Schuyler just won their first game of the year, beating I believe Whitney Point last weekend.
Who Waverly has?
Has this week. So I think this weekend Waverly. We said right from the beginning of the season that there was Waverly's competition was not coming from their division, and they've pretty much shown that with. I think they've outscored off the top of my head, they've outscored their three opponents in their division 175-0. And then now they'll get Whitney Point. So because they had two 60-point wins for last week.
I know in New York State, so Coach Miller's been able to get Axel Murray, right, eighth grade quarterback in there a little bit. There's a weird rule in New York. You can only play 10 snaps if you want to play JV.
Correct.
Do you think maybe he forgets about that this week and just lets him go out there a little bit if you get up?
I think their last TV game, they might have another game. I know they played Troy last night in JV or tonight. So, could be.
Yeah, I mean, you would think you want to, you're back up to. I know they have Dalton Davis there too, but I think Axel Murray is probably,
Well, he's definitely, if something happens to Ben Shaw, who is
playing outstanding, and
he's completed 19 of his last 21, or some ridiculous. No, he had 19 in a row, so he's like 28 of his last 30.
Yeah.
So it's just some ridiculous number in his last 4 games.
So Waverly, it's at this point, stay healthy, get ready for that, section final.
Windsor will be an interesting game. I think they'll be the big favorite to win, but Windsor's quarterback is very athletic and has got a couple receivers to throw to. Again, I just don't. They'd have to outscore Waverly. I just don't.
Yeah.
Waverly's pretty good defensively, and they're always good against those dual threat quarterbacks. So I just don't see.
Where are we at soccer wise in New York State?
Well, the Waverly girls will be playing for the first ever section title on Saturday. They play Shenango Forks. Owego at Oneonta. Both teams play on turf fields. They're playing at Oneonta, which is a long haul for both schools, on grass field. Don't ask me.
Owego's, not like Owego would make any sense, right?
Right.
20 minutes away from.
Even Vestal, even Vestal or UE. But in its infinite wisdom, Section 4 is playing in Oneonta. I know they'll tell you that they're the only ones that put in for the game, but in this situation, you can call a school and say, hey, let's see. Then you have
Owego boys.
Owego boys playing at UE on Saturday afternoon. They'll play
Emmy, right?
Emmy. Owego boys 18-0, Maine Endwell 10-4. Maine Endwell's number 1 seed.
And Owego ranked number 1 in the state.
Yes, and Maine Endwell's number 1 seed, despite the fact, of course, the seeding came out before Owego beat Maine Endwell in the STAC championship game. Again, though, they're 10-3 against 16 or 17-0. They're both the same size schools. They play in the same league. I know Maine Endwell plays in a bigger conference with bigger schools.
Yeah, it's all points or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a.
It doesn't matter.
Silly.
Just get the win if you're Owego.
You still got to beat right, and it's not like it's home field advantage was on the line. So it's, and then on the volleyball side, we've got. Let's see. Owego just picked up STAC championship. They're undefeated. They'll probably be the number 1 seed in Class A. We've got Tioga, the night we're taping this on Tuesday. Talk about wacky. Tioga's playing Lansing in a divisional playoff game tonight. What's the normal first tiebreaker in anything?
Head-to-head, I would think.
Tioga beat Lansing twice this year, but they both ended up 11-3. So they're having a playoff tonight to play Whitney Point, who won the division.
Yeah.
Well, for some reason, the IAC feels the need to not only not break ties like everybody else in the civilized world does, but instead of playing the large school champion against the small school champion and just having one champion, because they don't have divisions anymore. The South and North, when Waverly left, they merged into a large school and small school period. So now they're taking the top 2 teams from each division and playing for small school, large school champions, even after they played each other twice this year. Now, in the small school, it kind of works out because Spencer Vanette and Candor, they both only had one loss in the league, and it was to each other. So now they're playing a rubber match for the small school champions. But so anyway, that's what we're looking at other than football off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun postseason, especially volleyball. I think we got a chance to have 3. Owego, Tioga, and either Spencer Candor in A, B, and D, or A, C, and D have a good chance to win section
Awesome.
titles.
Looking forward to watching it all unfold here. Coming up right now, we're going to send it to our interview with Owego senior running back Joseph Palladino. And joining us now on Two Guys Talking Sports is Owego senior Joseph Palladino. How are we doing tonight, Joseph?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing really well.
So, Joseph, let me see. You played soccer up through your sophomore year and then transitioned over to football last year and had a nice season for the Riverhawks. Talk a little bit about the transition from soccer and to football. What was the hardest part for you, and how'd that work out for you?
The hardest part was probably learning how to tackle, because I came out of my sophomore year, and sophomore year summer, I was right into like the summer trainings with football, and it made it a lot easier than I expected it to be. But learning how to tackle was definitely the most difficult part.
Now, did you play any youth football?
No, none.
So literally just first time strapping on a helmet was last year?
Yes, sir.
So, obviously you guys are undefeated, ranked high in the state. The soccer team's undefeated, number 1 in the state. I'm sure you know all those guys. It's not that big a school. You played soccer with them. Your thoughts on, says a lot about our school that can do those 2 sports and be undefeated. So maybe your thoughts a little bit on that soccer team and their talent.
Yeah, they're very good. I know them all very well. All very nice kids, and they really have their eyes on the state championship this year. They've won. I won sectionals freshman and sophomore year. They won it last year, and they always just fall short in regionals. But I think they can go all the way this year.
What's talking about your team now? Undefeated, coming into a big game this week. What's been the key for you this year, and what's been the difference between this team and last year's team?
Last year we were all pretty. We were basically all juniors. We had like 1 or 2 seniors on the team, and we were just a little. I don't want to say undersized, but I think we were mentally small, just not like really prepared for everything. But this year we're much more composed and a much more mentally strong team.
I'm going to go back to soccer for a second. Is there any one thing that you can say translate from soccer to football to help you there when you moved over?
Yeah, because I was a defender in soccer right back, so a lot of like pursuit angle things that help me out when I'm playing safety, I'd say.
Obviously, how much does it help you played, other sports with these football players, right? So how much like that bond was that there right away when you joined the football team?
Oh yeah, and all these kids are some of my best friends. I mean, this year we're probably the strongest team. Like together, we're a lot stronger than last year, and I'm sure a lot stronger than the years before that. So I love playing football, but the friendships that I've made and the memories that we make at practice are special.
Now, this is a pretty big group of seniors on this team, and most of them started as sophomores. Or a lot of them anyway.
Yeah.
So the bond there's got to be pretty strong on this team.
Yes, sir. Very.
Tell me, coming into a game like this week, how does that work for you? I mean, as far as you guys know each other so well, you have to. You guys talk about this game at all, or do you just know?
Oh, we talk about it quite a bit. I mean, we've watched a lot of film. I mean, I'm sure you know that Johnson City forfeit last week, so I gave us a few extra days to prepare. But I mean, most of the things we don't really have to tell each other. We just know, like, we all have the same goal in mind. It's basically unspoken. So
Obviously, this is a team you're going to play probably in 2 weeks from now too, right? So
yes,
how are you guys preparing for that? You don't want to show all your cards, right, in a game that
exactly. Yeah,
most likely is not going to it doesn't mean a ton, right? Obviously, you want to stay undefeated, you want to beat them, but the big game's 2-3 weeks from now.
exactly. I mean, it's this game. It's mostly just for bragging rights. I mean, it's for the division, which means something. But I mean, most likely we're going to play each other in the sectional final. So yeah, we're gonna show some things, but we have so many calls and plays. It would be hard to get them all out here. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be the hardest game by far, but we're not going to reveal everything.
What's it like to play that game at home? Obviously, that Owego community really supports their Riverhawks. Some people don't like to call them the Riverhawks yet, but they support their team, right?
Yeah. We're supposed to have very good turnout for this game, so it's going to be it's an exciting atmosphere.
There's kind of a mystique. Maine Endwell's kind of got a mystique about them, and obviously it's well earned. But the Waverly took them right to the limit, and kind of showed that they can be beat. You guys, is part of this game for you guys just overcoming that mystique they've got?
I'd say a little bit, yeah. I mean, it really is just another game, but I guess we're really trying to prove that we can actually accomplish what we've been telling everyone we've been doing and win a sectional championship this year.
What's it like to play for Coach Patton Taylor? Obviously, he's done a nice job these first 2 years. And what kind of coach is he? What's his style?
He's definitely a leader, like inspirer. He's very his speeches are very good. Gets us all amped up, and he's very when he says something, we listen pretty quickly, and because we don't really want to be running at all. So he's a very I don't know, just he's a very powerful leader, and he's made that known to our players.
So as a former, I should ask you this earlier, but as a former soccer player, do you like getting hit or being the hitter? Offense or defense? Which do you prefer?
I mean, I guess that depends game to game. I mean, I love offense just because I love having the ball in my hands and being able to dictate what the defense does. But there's no better feeling like getting a fumble or a pick. It's just there's different. I don't know. I guess I like them. I like them both. For being honest.
What's Coach Taylor's message been this week? Obviously, like you said earlier, this is a game that means something, but the big one's down the road, right? So how are you guys preparing for this week?
I mean, we did prepare a little bit last week, and I think we focused a little bit more on film, just trying to learn their tendencies, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, really. That's basically about it.
What's it going to take for you guys to make a run? Sectionals starts. What's it going to take for you guys to make a run? Obviously, getting past Maine Endwell is the big thing, right? And then after that, who knows what happens on the road to the Dome. So what's it going to take for you guys to really put a run together here late?
Just staying focused in practice. I mean, I know the season gets pretty long and cold, but if you don't come out to practice like excited, it's going to suck, and then you're going to have a bad week of practice, and the game's going to be lackadaisical. I think it all starts at practice.
As a senior, what's it been like for you? Obviously, it's the first practice, last 2 days, your last home game coming up maybe here soon. So what's it been like so far?
It's been a great year. I couldn't ask for any more. I mean, I think all of my teammates and fellow seniors are very satisfied with this year so far, but I mean, there's still a lot more to go.
Talk about it. You talked earlier a little bit about it. Talk about that Owego community. What's it? How close knit is that community up there?
It's very close. We all know each other very well. I mean, I've known like everyone in my grade. I've known since at least middle school, and if they went to Owego Elementary School, I known them since third grade when I went there. So it's nice knowing that these people are trying to get other people to come to the game and unite and hopefully bring a good enough atmosphere for us to play.
If you guys have a chance, you're going to get to the soccer playoff games as much as you can?
Yes, sir. I believe that's Saturday right after. So, I mean, I might be in a little bit of pain, but you'll see me there. So,
all right. That is Joseph Palladino, Owego senior, getting ready to take on Maine Endwell this week. Joseph, thanks for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports, and good luck this week and the rest of the season.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Good luck, Joseph.
Thank you.
We want to thank Owego's Joseph Palladino for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports. Tim, let's turn our attention to college football. The big one this week, obviously, Penn State, Ohio State at noon on Saturday down in Happy Valley. Should be a crazy day down there with big noon kickoff, college game day, both being down there. And Trump's supposedly going to be some booster there, invite him to the box. So I'm glad we were talking about going. Once we saw all that happen, like we'd have to leave like yesterday to get there on time.
Best seats are right in front of your.
That's
television.
right. So
it's funny. I was looking, and I tell you what, I look at the rankings, and I still think Georgia's the best team in the country. I think they're hands down the best team in the country. I know Oregon's got a big win, but I'm not sold on Ohio State. I'm not sold on Penn State. I'm not sold on Miami. I'm not sold on Pitt, these undefeated teams. I just don't. The best team I saw, well, for half the best team I saw was Alabama, but they've been so inconsistent. The best team I've seen so far has been Georgia. They're just, took a perfect half of football for Alabama to beat them.
And of course, the rankings mean absolutely nothing this year, really. So other than getting that bye in the first round, which kind of sucks for those teams because then they don't get a home playoff game. It goes right to the bowl system there. By the time they get to start playing. But I'm looking forward to it. It could be some great, like, historic matchups that first round of the playoffs. Like, could be Notre Dame at Penn State, or vice versa, or
and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And they should have been doing this for the last 30 years. Why the NCAA, in their infinite wisdom, thought they couldn't make more money this way than they did with the bowl system is beyond me.
Penn State, I will say this. This is 2 straight games that they were down at the half at USC, at Wisconsin, and they won those games. Those past years, they're losing those, at least one of those games probably. So we'll see what quarterback is out there. Drew Aller got hurt in the first half. Bo Prabula looked pretty good.
I was impressed with him.
That Penn State defense is the real deal. I mean, they've given up, I think, like single-digit second-half points this year.
Yeah, Ohio State.
They struggled against Nebraska.
I mean, Indiana beat them 56-7 the week before. At Indiana gets a win this week without their starting quarterback.
And that could have been a trap, that classic trap game for Ohio State looking ahead to Penn State and thinking.
Yeah, and I don't judge, comparisons, but both of them had Nebraska at home. And of course, then like I said, Indiana and they lost their starting quarterback, and they went out last week and got a nice win with their backup.
And they go to Michigan State this week. Indiana does. With Signetti there from IUP, I believe, and he's JMU, and he's got the best press conference in the game when he's, they look me up, I win, or whatever, Google me. I just saw a thing that Oregon could be ranked number 1 in the country later on this year and not make the Big Ten final because Ohio State and Indiana Penn State and Indiana both play Ohio State. So if they both beat Ohio State, and then those 3 teams, Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon don't play each other. And so the tiebreaker is going to be your best win and how many points it was by. So Oregon only beat Ohio State by 1. So if Indiana and Penn State beat them by more than 1, it could the number 1 team in the country could not be in the Big Ten title game.
People have talked about how tough the SEC and the Big Ten are. And they are, obviously, because they've got so many quality teams. But the conferences are so big now that you're not getting a lot of the matchups that you really want to see. So depending on how the schedules get broke down.
And they've protected some big matchups, but Penn State has no protected matchups, so they're not going to play Ohio State every year. They don't play Michigan this year. They don't play Oregon. So
that's what made the last 10 years, that's what's made the Big Ten great.
Yeah.
It's Penn State, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
It sucked for them because they were the East.
State, yeah.
They were in the Big Ten East, and the Big Ten West was terrible.
Yeah.
So, basically Wisconsin or Iowa or somebody got a cakewalk into the title game, so that's nice at least. But Oregon at Michigan this week, I don't think Michigan has anything for them. Pitt, undefeated. They go to SMU Saturday night, 8 o'clock on the ACC network, so nobody's going to find that, but unfortunately. But Pitt looking good this year. They haven't played a tough schedule, but
they've got a couple nice wins, and it's just good to see. I think that's.
I'm not a Pitt fan. It's not great to see, but it's great for sport of college football.
It is, and for Pennsylvania football, that'll help everybody's recruiting.
Virginia Tech at Syracuse. Syracuse looking to bounce back.
Boy, they did just talk about putting up a goose egg against Pitt last week.
Yeah.
Just an awful performance. That's twice this year. Twice where they're starting to get a little bit of attention from people.
Lose to Stanford, right?
And they lose to Stanford, a team that's not very good. And then they, Pitt, obviously they're unbeaten and they're solid program right now. But Syracuse just looked awful.
McCord had 3 pick sixes in that game and 5 interceptions overall.
Yeah, that's just brutal.
Yeah, so should be fun to watch. Penn State, Ohio State, noon on Saturday. Hopefully, maybe it's Penn State's year finally to knock them off.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not a Penn State fan, and I'm not sold on them, but I'm not sold on Ohio State either.
Yeah.
I'm going with Penn State this year.
We'll see how it all goes down in Happy Valley at noon. It should be a night game. That would have been great at night, white out at night for those two teams. But
I would watch it if it was a night game.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to thank our sponsor, Jay Lister, LLC, and Lenders Assistance. Give Jim Lister a call, 607-857-2036. Email Jim at jim.lister@yahoo.com. Let Jim's 30 years in the automobile industry work for you. And obviously, anybody else out there wants to hop on board the Two Guys Talking Sports train here as a sponsor, get a hold of me or Tim.
Make sure you get on and subscribe to our channel, too. Leave a comment, like what we're doing.
Absolutely. We're having a blast with it. That was episode 21 of Two Guys Talking Sports. We'll talk to you next week.